I first learned that Kathy had an opiate addiction when, in February of 2012, when she did not get up for work and she seemed to have the flu. I went in and I just sat at the edge of bed and I said, I'm not getting up until you tell me what's going on, because she'd been sick, really sick, and it scared me. And she just collapsed into my arms and she said, it's so bad, I can't tell you, I can't tell you. And I said, yes, you can tell us. We're your parents, we love you. Nothing's gonna make us stop loving you. How bad could it possibly be? And she said, I'm addicted to heroin.
Opioid addiction is ravaging this country, but only recently has the scope of the problem pierced the national consciousness. We wanted to shed light on the devastating financial impact of the epidemic and how financial advisors play a critical role on the front lines.
I don't think advisors are prepared as an industry because no one's really preparing them. And I think the enormity of this problem is really truly not out there, even though we see dribs and drabs in the newspapers. And there is no training guide, at least I haven't seen, of what to do.
Opioids are a type of pain-relieving drug like OxyContin and heroin. Over the last 15 years, there's been a 200% spike in the number of opioid-related deaths nationally. The cost of opioid addiction to families is often tens of thousands of dollars, but can easily extend into the hundreds of thousands. In 2015, an opioid addict's average healthcare bill before insurance was $63,000, or more than $50,000 higher than a non-user.
You can become addicted to oxycodone very quickly. I had a patient who became addicted after just 3 days. Sadly, it is probably the worst medical crisis the United States of America has ever had, more than tobacco. Tobacco caused cancer and it killed a lot of people. The opioid epidemic makes tobacco look like a cold flu.
The statistics surrounding this problem are enormous. I read last year that about 60,000 people died of drug overdose, which obviously includes the opioid situation. And I was a history teacher, so I always kind of relate it to events in history. And when you think about that, that's more people than died in either the entire Korean War or the entire Vietnam War.
This epidemic has major financial implications for addicts and their families. Lori, a longtime Washington, D.C. court stenographer, and her husband were able to help save their daughter's life because they had the resources to pay for treatment. Keep in mind, there are no guarantees in rehab. There are no refunds. Adult addicts can leave rehab anytime they choose.
Cost of addiction is high for anyone who's an addict because they almost immediately lose everything that they have. In Kathy's case, she lost her car, her bike, her laptop. She had to hawk everything. We had the initial $18,000 for the rehab. There's also the traffic tickets that come in. Even after her car had been taken by her dealer, the tickets still came in. The new mattress, the visits to the doctor, the enrollment fee at Harrison House. I would say when you add it all up, it's about $50,000.
The key thing a good advisor needs to do in all of these situations, especially in something like this, such a serious health issue, is to stay calm and be rational and be the voice of reason. Just like when the markets are tanking, people need that reassurance. And now it's 10 times magnified with such a situation with a family member. So it's even more important not to be judgmental. You need to be proactive. First of all, people need to be liquid. I think you need to make sure that they have things like a home equity line of credit available. They have a much larger cash reserve than you would recommend. In other words, you might say to someone, you know what, you need 6 months to a year cash reserve. Well, maybe you need 3 years. You need to take advantage of things like maybe if they have a cash value, life insurance and they could borrow money from it. Roth IRAs, you could always take out your initial contribution. So having a bucket of money that's available to them in a very short-term time frame is more important for this, I think, than anything, because the bills can be extraordinarily high, and more importantly, unexpected events could happen at any time.
When time came to write the check for rehab, I didn't blink. It wasn't like, oh, well, we can't send her to that rehab because it's $18,000. It's not, the money becomes so irrelevant.
I think as part of any good financial planning team, you need a lawyer, you need an accountant, you need an insurance person. I also think you actually need a psychologist. You need that trained person, that trained psychologist, that trained person, a rehab specialist to add to your financial team. And I think that's a 21st century way of financial planning.
The number of addicts and overdose deaths continues to rise. You, the advisor, can play a critical role in changing this. By being empathetic, rational, and diligent about maintaining a plan with your clients, you can provide a solid foundation on which to rebuild their lives.
She's an addict, and she will say herself, one day you're not an addict and the next day you are, and then you are forever. You're never an un-addict, you just are, and that's your life. And your whole goal is to stay sober every day, and they take it one day at a time. I have a good feeling that she'll be okay, but